That's Churches. You're listening to RHD 107.9 Life. We've got Joel Vaughan, Ed Sheeran, David Guetta on the way very shortly. Now, I want to start by playing this little clip. I mentioned that this is what we're going to be doing to start with, Taya, and you said, who is that? So we'll get to that in a second, and hopefully your Googling has got you where you need to go. Okay, here we go. One second.
Hi, I'm Father Jim Martin. I am editor-at-large at America Magazine, and we are here with someone that I hope you know, Stephen Colbert. Welcome to America House.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Here's a question for you. I'm actually dying to ask you this. If you had one thing to say to Pope Francis, what would it be?
Like, what do you do to get that smile on your face in the morning? What do you do? Like, I remember hearing about Mother Teresa saying, like, get up in the morning and smile and say yes. Like, smile and say yes. I did that this morning. I did this morning. I went to a funeral this morning. And after the funeral, I was going up to my offices over at CBS, and I took a deep breath, and I did that little exercise, the smile and say yes. But the Pope seemed so happy. I was wondering, like, what's your regimen in the morning? What are you doing? What's your 5 minutes getting out of bed in the morning?
What do you think he would say?
Probably prayer. He'd probably say prayer.
Yeah.
That. And the fact that you're Pope.
Yeah, that's got to make you happy. Like, yeah, what the hell, I'm Pope.
Look how crisp these white robes are.
That's right. Who aren't these?
Exactly.
All right, so Stephen Colbert, of course, ultra famous, Taya, hosts The Late Show over, is it Late Show, Tom?
Yeah, The Late Show.
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Super famous, also very strong political commentator at the moment over in the US, and he's kind of done a lot of his YouTube clips from his show are like going gangbusters because of that. Stephen Colbert also, as a lot of people who'd watched the show know, he's very vocal Catholic, which is kind of really unusual for someone sort of at the peak of sort of like media stardom, fame, thing, whatever. That was him. That was a clip that's been shared like, a million plus times of him at America Magazine, where he was hanging out with a guy named Father James Martin, who I guess people would be aware of is a really strong sort of social justice person. And America Magazine is sort of like this massive media thing. You think America, you don't think of that as a kind of like a religious magazine by the sound of it, but it is a very strong magazine by the Jesuits, which is kind of like an order, sort of like a religious order. Now, the reason I have brought all this kind of thing up is that there is a podcast that organization does called Jesuitical. We sort of
you're all over your podcast.
Okay, I'm trying to, Hey, look, I live in podcast land. Podcast land. It's my happy place. It's where I like to go. So, someone was actually asking me the other day about going, how much radio do you actually listen to? Listen to a lot of radio. So I probably listen to roughly probably about 2 hours of radio a day at least, 2 or 3 hours of radio. But I'd say that, 85% of that would be podcasts of some kind of another. I just love that sort of, I just get so overtaken by the idea that the media can just kind of get into your phone and then it's there. It just sits in there waiting for you to kind of just...
Radio on demand.
Yeah, to just bathe in the glow of its wonderfulness,
So many podcasts you listen to a day?
I probably listen to, I've got probably about, I'd say I have about 7 or 8 subscribed on the go at any one time.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'd sort of be doing as well. And there are some that I like more than others. Yeah. But the one that I really love this one called Jesuitical. So you've got these 3 guys. Their names are Ashley McKinless, Olga Segura, and Zach Davis. They're 3 people in their sort of early 20s, I guess. They're all journalists. But they work with Father James Martin at American Magazine, and they deliver a kind of a podcast all about stuff that's going on, I guess, in the Catholic world, but try to take a take on it which is sort of accessible, kind of essentially kind of what RHD's really essentially trying to do in a way, but they sort of tackle it all a lot more kind of like head on. They're sort of much more sort of straight up and down Catholic subject matter. The thing I love about it though is it doesn't come across as being highly edited or highly curated. It feels really authentic and feels really real. And they had this guest on this week, and I just wanted to share a little bit of this. So we don't usually sort of like talk a lot about sort of Catholic media here, but this is something that I really think is worth checking out because they had a guest on and her name was Rachel Held Evans. She's written this new book called Inspired, Slaying Giants, Walking on Water and Loving the Bible Again. And she was brought up as this sort of like really staunch Baptist in the southern states of the US. And when she was in university, like a lot of people do who grow up in this kind of environment, they kind of go, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem to ring true. And, you know, the Bible says this, but what about this? That seems to contradict that or the other. Everything I look at kind of can have something that goes against that. Yeah. But it was through the questioning and through kind of wrestling with certain things that she actually found something deeper and more layers of meaning. Anyway, look, I'm just going to play you this one little bit just to have a quick listen to. It's really engaging. Okay, here we go.
You mentioned in your book that you were kind of able, when you were isolated from the community you grew up with, you were actually able to reach out to people online and found a community there that you could kind of work through these questions with. What was that experience like as people who are interested in building virtual communities?
Yeah. I mean, it's so great because, I mean, I know the internet gets a bad rap sometimes, and deservedly so. I mean, you know,
jury's still out on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's really the most terrible place in the universe. But, you know, occasionally, like for somebody who, you know, lives in a small town in Tennessee and, you know, hasn't been exposed to, you know, certain ideas, it can also be really enlightening. And so, you know, I just started writing through some of my questions and doubts and posting them to my blog. And, you know, the responses I got just opened my eyes to all these new ways of thinking about faith and also just thinking about biblical interpretation. I mean, I remember once just writing, hey, so the story of Abraham and Isaac, what's up with that? It's not exactly like ideal parenting in my mind, but like Abraham gets praised for his faith, even though he was willing to sacrifice his own son. That seems like not the moral lesson there seemed a lot murkier to me as an adult than it did as a child, which you'd think as a child it would just freak you out. But and I remember just posing that question, thinking, I wonder if anybody else feels this way. And the responses they poured in were affirming that, oh, hey, you're not the only one to wrestle with the Bible and wrestle with certain stories and certain texts. And then two, you know, people would chime in, hey, I'm a rabbi, here's our take on this. Hey, I'm a Jesuit, here's our take on this. Like the diversity of responses opened up for me the reality that the Bible is at its best when we're wrestling with it together with a diversity of people coming from all different perspectives and different faith traditions.
Yeah, see, so it's a really kind of, you don't usually hear people talking in this way.
Yeah,
I don't usually hear people talking in this way. It's kind of, you usually hear a lot of like dialogue going, this is how, you know, we look at things, this is how things are and that kind of stuff, instead of that sort of questioning dialogue and that kind of stuff. And the fact that this is endorsed by a really sort of like high profile Catholic publication, I guess, on the whole, I find that really affirming. I think that's really good. And I think that's one thing that Catholics do really well, is looking at these whole ideas and these whole modes of thought and going, but what else is going on here? Where's the context and where's all that kind of stuff? We've got a great podcast version of the show, actually, if anyone wants to check it out, about the Gospel of Mark. And we had Sister Bernadette Kiley, who wrote the book, well, not wrote the book, but wrote a book about breaking open Gospel of Mark and her views of what it meant in context. And it's very different, I think, than a kind of a literal view of what it's all about. So, but Jesuitical, you can check it out wherever you get your podcasts from. I highly recommend it. That's the latest episode, so have a listen and check it out. We got lots more coming up. We're going to be chatting all about table tennis. Tennis.
We are, James, yes.
So we're definitely jumping from one extreme to another. Catholic scripture.
Perfect segue.
Table tennis. Also got music from David Guetta, Sia, and Katie Hurst. But right now, this is Joel Vaughan. Love this one. You're listening to Archd 107.9 Live.
I don't want to let